I was speaking with a high-functioning woman, I'll call her Layla, and she said something that stopped me. She said, "When I restrict, my mind finally goes quiet." And as she said it, her shoulders lifted, her breath got shallow, and she looked braced. And then she said, very softly, "Eating doesn't feel neutral. It feels dangerous." If you recognize any part of that, if food, weight, or control has become the place your nervous system goes when life feels too much, I want to offer a reframe. In the PsycheVita approach, symptoms are signals, messages that life's demands have exceeded our current internal capacities. And the signal behind anorexia is often this: my system doesn't feel safe, so control becomes my refuge. A quick safety note. Anorexia can be medically serious and can be life-threatening. This video is educational and not a substitute for medical or specialist eating disorder care. If your health feels unstable, please seek medical assessment. You can still use the skills here, but your safety comes first. This video's core claim is this: anorexia is not only about food, but often a safety strategy built on trainable gaps in regulation, self-worth, and emotional processing. If you want to practice these skills step by step, you can do that in PsycheVita, on the site or the app. And if you want a structured starting point, begin with anorexia safety and support, linked in the description. I'm a psychotherapist, executive coach, clinical supervisor, and an award-winning therapy researcher. I'm Dr. Tony Weston. I work with people whose distress is often hidden behind competence, control, and perfectionism, and I'm interested in what the nervous system is trying to do underneath the surface. Over time, I stopped believing this pattern was primarily diagnostic. It's often developmental, and that matters because diagnosis tends to ask, what category does this belong to? Development asks, what skills does this person need to build next? In this video, we're going to build 3 skills that change the pattern closer to its roots. 8.2 Somatic Attunement, so normal body signals don't instantly feel like threat. 3.4 Healthy self-worth, so legitimate emotional needs don't turn into shame-based self-attack. 1.2 Adaptive emotional processing, so normal feelings can move through us without control behaviours interrupting the process. Let's start with what anorexia is often doing underneath the surface. For many people, it isn't "I want to be thin." It's "I need to feel emotionally safe." And body-based self-control becomes a fast way to create that feeling. Sometimes that vulnerability begins early, not because anyone intended harm, but because your system adapted to an environment where emotion, need, uncertainty, or rest didn't feel held. And here's something that helps this make sense. Much of what shaped us early on is learned procedurally, like muscle memory. We don't think our way into it, we practice our way into it. This kind of learning is precognitive. It happens before language, before insight, before you can reason your way through it. So when this pattern shows up, it isn't you being dramatic or you choosing this. It can be an older, precognitive, protective procedure switching on, one you needed in order to feel safer, now showing up in a time and place where it's no longer protecting you. And that's also why change isn't mainly a thinking task, it's a retraining task. Small, repeated, body-based reps that teach your nervous system a new default. Think about learning to walk. You didn't learn to walk by understanding balance. You learned through wobble, support, falling, trying again, and repetition until balance became automatic. In the same way, your body can learn a different relationship with signals like hunger, fullness, tension, and fear, but it learns through frequent, tiny repetitions. Now, a quick map because it matters for why this pattern can feel so stubborn. PsycheVita is built around the lifelong capacities map, the 48 psychological and emotional skills that help people overcome the full range of mental health diagnoses and symptoms and perform at the highest levels. In an ideal world, those skills develop in a sequence because smooth functioning of the higher skills depends on solid foundations of the lower skills. For simplicity, we group them into layers. When I say layers, I also mean rough developmental windows, not deadlines. Layer 1 is regulation of our body and our emotions, and it develops first, roughly from just before birth to around age 6. There are 8 skills to master here. Layer 2 is self-worth and shame resilience. It develops strongly around ages 3 to 9. There are 4 skills to master here. Layer 3 is thinking and follow-through. That tends to build around 7 to 14. Layer 4 is meaning, motivation, and direction. That deepens around 12 to 25. Layers 5 to 6 are connection, influence, wisdom, and those capacities keep developing throughout adulthood, with integration deepening from around 25 onward. Those are windows, and here's the hopeful part. If a layer didn't get enough support early on, it doesn't mean you're stuck. It means you have a trainable skills gap. That's what PsycheVita is, building the foundations now at any age with small, repeatable practices. Many people try to solve anorexia at the level of plans, rules, motivation, or willpower. Those are mostly higher layer strategies. Layer 3 is thinking and behaviour, and layer 4 is purpose and direction. But the vulnerability is usually lower down, regulation and worth at layers 1 and 2. Those are the layers where effective change needs to happen. If your body signals feel unsafe, and if worth turns needs into shame, it makes complete emotional sense to use body-based control procedures to try to create safety. So our first skill is 8.2, Somatic Attunement, noticing what's happening in our body early with accuracy and steadiness, not I'm fine until we're not. But my jaw is tight, my breath is held, my chest is braced, I feel numb, I feel panicky. That's information, and early is where change is possible. And just a brief safety note, some feelings are too big for one person to carry alone, especially when they relate to early trauma, early neglect, or body-based distress that was never safely held in the first place. If this material stirs something very young, very strong, or very overwhelming in you, it may be wiser to practice with co-regulation with a trusted support person or with a therapist trained in somatic work, body-based trauma work, or focusing, so the feelings can be held safely, not flooded. I want to say this clearly. Recovery isn't just decide differently. For many people, restriction has become a powerful safety strategy, and the body can get pulled into a dangerous spiral. So we're not doing blame here. We're mapping the mechanism and naming skills that support recovery alongside proper care. Here's the loop in plain language. Firstly, a layer 1 body signal shows up. Anxiety, numbness, agitation, inner chaos. Secondly, meaning gets added fast. If I have needs, I'm weak. Or if I lose control, I'm not safe. 3. A learned precognitive control response happens. 4. Short-term relief. The inner noise goes quiet. You feel emotionally safer. 5. The long-term cost. Your nervous system becomes more threatened and more vigilant, and the fear returns stronger. The hinge is often worth and shame. Shame is the nervous system alarm that says, my worth is at risk. In everyday language, it sounds like, I'm pathetic, I'm disgusting, I'm failing, I'm not good enough, I'm out of control, I'm going to be judged. So our second skill is 3.4, healthy self-worth, the ability to experience a need, a limit, or a body signal without turning it into self-contempt. And here's the painful part of the loop, the maintaining rule. Because every time control creates relief, the nervous system learns my body is dangerous and control is safety. That's not a character flaw, that's a procedural learning loop. And here's the knife line, because this is what keeps it running. Every time control reduces fear to feel safe, we teach the nervous system that fear can only be solved by control, not by safety, regulation, and worth. And just to make that concrete, here are a few everyday control moves that can look tidy on the outside while your system is in distress. Skipping or delaying eating to quiet anxiety. Obsessing over numbers, rules, or perfect plans to feel safe. Avoiding social food situations to avoid threat. Using rigidity to shut down emotion. Waiting until you're in crisis before you accept support. Again, not blame, this is just the map. So what changes when we build the skills underneath? We're not trying to rip away a coping strategy and hope for the best. We're building safety, worth, and emotional capacity, so the strategy becomes less necessary. So our third skill is 1.2, adaptive emotional processing. The ability to let feelings move through you without getting overwhelmed, shut down, or turning them into self-attack. Because for many people, control isn't really about food. It's about not having to feel fear or grief or anger or helplessness or loneliness or the pressure of perfection. And we keep it procedural. Notice the signal, remove the moral verdict, do a small regulating step. These tiny cues aren't the change themselves. They're how we teach our nervous system that another response is possible. We start small because it's doable even when we're overwhelmed. By repeating it, we interrupt the old procedural if this, then that pattern, just enough to create space. Over time, those pauses let us choose a different behaviour, one that honours our needs and values. This is the mechanism behind PsycheVita's skills training, small, repeated body-based reps that teach our nervous system a new default. This is neuroplasticity. Small repeated shifts become the brain and nervous system's new default. PsycheVita was built to make that kind of developmental work more accessible and repeatable, not to replace therapy, but to support capacity growth between sessions. Insight can help us understand a pattern. A good therapist can help us feel held, seen, and regulated. Artificial intelligence can help us reflect and think between sessions, but many of these skills only become reliable through small, repeated reps, and that's the role PsycheVita Grow was built to support. I'm going to invite you to do this with me now, if it's safe to do so. Do the smallest version that's possible for you right now. If this practice increases distress, stop and do the smallest version. Feel your feet on the floor, look around the room, and come back later. Or do it with professional support. Before we begin, quietly rate your current level of activation from 0 to 10, where 0 is the most relaxed and 10 is the most stressed. There is no right number, just notice it. Step 1, contact. Feel your feet on the floor. Feel the support underneath you. Step 2, soften your effort by 5%. Let your shoulders drop by 5% and clench your jaw by 5%. Step 3, 3-6 breathing. 2 cycles, in for 3, out for 6. Again, in for 3, out for 6. Now, say to yourself simply, like an instruction, this is a safety signal, not a failure. You'll find a longer psychescription version of this practice inside PsycheVita. Follow the anorexia safety and support pathway linked in the description. Quietly rate your activation again from 0 to 10. What changed? Even slightly. Even noticing no shift is useful data. It tells us what your system needs next. For the next 7 days, keep it simple. Practice this exact reset once a day, the one we just did together, just for a few minutes. You can do it in 2 ways. 1, rewatch this part of the video and practice along with me. Or 2, use the slightly longer psychescription version inside PsycheVita in the anorexia safety and support pathway linked in the description. The point isn't perfection. The point is repetition. Because every repetition is a tiny lesson to your nervous system. My body can be here and I can stay with it, feeling emotionally safe and without attacking myself. Anorexia often isn't vanity or stubbornness. It can be a nervous system trying to feel safe and a worth system that punishes need. And the direction of change is simple. Safety through skills, not control. If you want to practice these skills step by step, you can do that in PsycheVita, on the site or the app. And the structured starting point is anorexia safety and support, linked in the description. You're not broken. You're adapting.